Thank you very much. Mr. President, Prime Minister, colleagues of the Central Committee, special invitees, observers, and most importantly, the delegates to this conference. It's my task today to present the Central Committee report, and all of you have a copy of this report in your package. So, in crafting this report, we knew that you would not have enough time to read it in its entirety from yesterday to today. But we are hoping that when you return home, you will read this report. Because what we did not just trace the fortunes of this party from the last Congress. We went back earlier in our history from the formation of our party, and we described the era in which our party was formed and the challenges of that era and how we responded to those challenges as a party, and what our achievements were in that colonial period characterized by Cold War and a lot of external forces aligned against us with the intent of dividing our people along racial lines and delaying the granting of independence. And we pointed out the core values that we held us together and brought independence to this country. We also, in the report, in a brief way, trace the excesses of the APNU dictatorship and how we responded to that. An era characterized by rigged elections, tyranny, mass migration, an era characterized by loss of welfare and stagnating economy, in fact, a retrogression of our economy. And so we did that, and then we moved on to the post-1992 era, our struggles, and what we did in that era long before we came to 2015. So I'm not going to read. The tradition is that the report is read to you. But if I read this report, it will take about approximately 4 hours. And I'm sure you don't want me to do that here today. So that's why I'm enlisting your help in ensuring that the report is read, if not today, sometime in the future. Because it equips you with a lot of the tools that would be essential to understanding the history of our party and the tools necessary to defend our party in the face of serious aggression and distortion. And it would also allow you to take pride in what we have achieved throughout our entire history. And so I want you to promise me that you will read this report. You will see how we have fought for national unity from our very beginning. And so today, as I said before, having listened to what the President spoke this morning, he touched some of the areas. Having listened to the General Secretary, the Executive Secretary of our party just now, I plan to deal with some key elements of the report in no particular order, but just to highlight some of the challenges that we face that sometimes go unnoticed. Many of you are aware more of the political struggle of the PPP. Many of you are aware of the history of rigged elections by the PNC because these have been well documented globally in several reports. But people do not understand often the challenge that having gotten rid of the dictatorship, emerging into office, what Cheddi Jagan was confronted with. And the era, the tools available to confront the challenge of that era. This morning I spoke about it. I want to use one figure that we use often to highlight the entire challenge of the economy. And that figure is the debt figure. We use it often to show the legacy of the PNC. We knew about people migrating in that period in droves and the infrastructure destroyed. But Carl Greenidge, in an affidavit to the Green Mining Construction Arbitration Trial, made this point. And Carl Greenidge was the Minister of Finance under the PNC government in the 85 to 92 era. He said that the debt to GDP ratio was over 900%. That means our national debt was 9 times the size of our entire economy. And he pointed out in that very same affidavit that we were using 153% of revenue to service debt. The actual was over 100% of revenue. So just go back into history. Go back into 1992 and say, we're starting a new government now, and we need to build roads because we didn't have much roads to drive on, even in the city. The power outage used to last two weeks at a time. The hospitals were all in disrepair. The school system was falling apart. People were poor. The farmers got no help. And you have to start fixing up this country. But you're using every cent you collect has to go to pay debts, external debt. And that was the starting point that the PPP, when they took their office in 1992. And therefore, what we have accomplished today is no short of phenomenal. We have transformed that entire situation. Our debt, by the time we left office, was 37% of GDP in 2015. It meant that we took a debt that was 9 times the size of our economy to less than half the size of our economy, lower than most developed countries in the world. In fact, the United States and Europe now, their debt to GDP ratio is like 100%. And we took the economy where we had to use over 100% of debt of revenue to service debt down to less than 10% of revenue. So now we had 90% of the revenue to spend back on our people. We restored a bankrupt country to financial solvency. In other parts of the world, people would get reelected only on that metric, on a single metric that they use. And that is what, I'm not going to talk about the other transformation, but that was what happened. We paid back $2 billion of debt, got another couple billion written off because of our leadership on the issue of debt relief. And at the same time, we expanded our spending on education and healthcare and housing. We started a housing program unprecedented in the history of this country and cannot be replicated in any other country. Irfan Ali was in charge here. We gave out over 100,000 house lots in a country where we had just over 250,000 households. Unbelievable. And I'm not going to trace that history because you know it. You know it, and you have an obligation to read about it if you want to really defend the great legacy of our party and the tradition of achievement of this party. As I said, I'm only going to deal with one metric, and that is of the debt, to show that whole period, what we took over. I expect you this evening to talk about these things. We have 7 workshops. They're designed to get you to speak and share your ideas, because you're not only going to assess our policies of the past this evening, but you're also going to share ideas for the future of this party, for the next 10, 20, 30 years, how we grow as a party, how we strengthen ourselves, and the kinds of government that we want to reflect the policy making of this party. And the areas, the 7 workshops are designed to allow a broad range of discussion: party organization, political and parliament, local government, international situation, youth and gender, economic and social situation, and public relations. It covers the gamut of the opportunities and challenges that we'd have to confront as we move forward. And I expect robust participation because, trust me, this party will take your ideas seriously. We come to the Congress to infuse ourselves with fresh ideas, to rekindle the enthusiasm, to draw on each other's spirit and strength. And that's why with this large gathering here today, we will leave here with a great momentum to go on to win the 2025 elections and continuing to lead this country. The second issue I want to talk about. So we've come out and we're at 2015 now. I'm not going to go. I skipped a whole big section in the report that you are going to read. And so we arrive at 2015. And what happened in 2015? By 2015, we had been in office a long time. So people took us for granted, and even in our own leadership, I mean at every level, we started losing the hunger to remain in office. The hunger was not there. Secondly, we had a whole generation of young people that grew up only with the PPP in office. They never had a starting point. They couldn't compare what life was under APNU. They did not know about the struggles of our foreparents. They did not know about rigged elections. They did not know about people not having to eat in this country, food stuff being banned. They didn't know about the repressive nature of the army and others under APNU. They did not know of that history. For them, they've lived all their lives under the PPP. So they couldn't have a point of reference to compare. So they fell easy prey to the other side. Oh, that's too far back in the past. We have changed now, APNU AFC. We made all these promises to everyone. We are the most forward-looking party. The APNU AFC, we have the best manifesto. We're not corrupt. We have a vision for the country. They were fooled. They were fooled, a whole generation of people. And people said, give them a chance. And with all of that, they still officially, although we believe that some jiggery-pokery took place, they got only 4,000 odd votes more than us. They got that. But our people, our own people, because of a lack of understanding what we mean to Guyana as a party, and our own achievements and how we fought corruption from the early days and the institutions that we built to prevent corruption, starting off from a whole slew of legislation to promote economic growth and development, to new tender legislation, to the Public Procurement Commission, to giving people the right of appeal, the bidding process that we have. They never knew. They believed that all of this existed before. Never did exist. We built that in the period that we're in office from 92 to 2015. And so this led to our undoing. And APNU emerged into office because some people trusted them. The sugar workers did. They were told 20% they were going to get every year. They got zero. Zero for 5 years, every one of the 5 years in terms of salary increases. 7,000 sugar workers were sent home. People who were promised on a platform. We even have the recording from Nagamutu and the others saying, the PPP is spreading rumors. You're not going to do that. The miners who supported APNU overwhelmingly saw 3 new big taxes on them. They told the miners, in 100 days, we'll remove all the taxes. They increased the royalty rate, they increased the tributous tax, and then they added VAT on machinery and equipment. I can go down the long list. The pensioners, they promised to take care of the pensioners in 100 days, took away welfare. The president spoke about that this morning from the pensioners. So the reason I'm telling you this is because they're at it again. New set of promises to the very people that they helped destroy, the indigenous people. They're gone back and talk about land rights after dismantling the land titling unit and firing all the people. They've gone to Linden and said to people, we'll give you house lots and everything and jobs. 0 jobs in the past. And they opposed the 1,200 people, part-time workers that we have now working in Region 10. They oppose that, but they want to fool people again. Oh, we will give you more land, but oppose the announcement of President Ali when he went there to say, we're going to invest in 1,400 plots of land to small people in Linden, so that not the politically connected guys who got all of the land, like Lowenfield, the chief elections officer, got a plot of land in 2018 for 216 acres, a prime land at Millie's hideout next to Linden. That could have developed 1,000 house lots, but they couldn't give an ordinary person a single house lot, but gave him that. We now have to buy back land from some people to build the housing there. So they're going to come with new sets of promises. And if we're not equipped, if you're not equipped to fight these off aggressively, and you have to use every means at your disposal in engagements with people as well as on social media, I expect every member of the party, because this is the cream of the party here. You were selected by your groups to represent them. The cream of the party here, that every one of you should have a social media account, because with artificial intelligence and everything else, they're going to be a major assault trying to distort our history again, divide our people along ethnic lines, make false promises to them. And that's why I'm saying we cannot go back to the lies of 2015. Now, the only good thing now is that the people of this country, particularly young people, had their little taste of what it is, APNU's rigging. And so they see the true nature of the PNC once again, which hasn't changed. As I said in the speech at the opening ceremony, they're even justifying that rigging. Hamilton Green recently said, oh, if that's what it takes to stay in power, we should rig again. In now 2024, unapologetic about stealing elections. Unapologetic, and that's the true nature. So in 2015, all of this, they got into office, never intended to fulfill their promises. The president spoke, they loaded up the economy with 200 taxes on every sector. The productive industry started tanking. Mass loss of jobs across every sector. People used to come to my office and say, the economy is slow, money is not circulating, nothing is happening because of their bad policy making. They were just collecting money more and more through higher taxes and spending the resources on things that did not matter to people, that didn't bring greater welfare to them. It was extravagance. That happened. They unleashed a vindictive campaign. Every member of the leadership of the cabinet and the party had to go to 𝐂𝐒𝐒 and Sarah. They charged unfairly President Ali. 19 charges he had. All of our comrades practically were dragged, Ashni Singh, in chains for nothing that they did that was not in the interest of this country. But vindictive set of assault on almost all our leaders, and we fought it off too. We exposed the corruption, we exposed the lack of solid economic policies, we exposed the taxes and fought against them. We fought off the vindictiveness, and then we also disrupted their plans to rig the elections. So what were their plans? They was carefully thought out. And they used different methods. The first method was the illegal appointment of the chairman of GCOM. I sent 18 names to Granger, and Granger dismissed all of them, that they are not fit and proper, and then appointed Patterson. Patterson was 200 years old, I think, at that time. And so he's fit and proper. You know, unilateral. We had to go all the way to the CCJ. And I want to thank Anil Nandalal and the others who are a team of lawyers who fought hard on these matters. So we succeeded, because with him there, elections were over, if we didn't succeed there. Secondly, they had an exercise called the digitization of GRO records. And that was under Felix. And they were bringing in 300,000 birth certificates they ordered, etc. In that process, trust me, they were going to issue birth certificates to a large number of people who didn't even exist, because that's what used to happen. That used to be the mode of rigging in the past. We fought that off too. We exposed it. Then they started going on a house-to-house campaign, to house-to-house registration, unilaterally using a decision of the same Patterson, after he was long removed, to go back to embark on this house-to-house campaign. And you know what would have happened? They would have dropped names from the register, and then we wouldn't have had enough time to get those names back on, because they'd call the elections quickly. We saw through the plan. But apart from it, seeing through the plan, it was unconstitutional. Our Constitution says you can't remove people's names like that. And we had to go again to the court. The Chief Justice ruled it's unconstitutional. They're even trying that even now. We fought that off too. And then we had to disrupt the other measures. So the no confidence motion, given our success, as President Ali spoke, was part of the plan to disrupt the plot that they had. We had to be very nimble. We had to go through all of these things. It was very fluid. They were using the resources of the state, 419.5 billion, used it liberally, getting people. They placed a special branch man in my office as leader of the opposition office. I knew him. But I didn't say anything. Guess what I did? I had him posting up flyers every day on the streets in Georgetown, with special branch. He posted up about 1,000 flyers for me. And I knew he was special branch. So imagine you do that in another country, a civilized country, the government falls to, in the lead of the opposition office, put a special branch operative. And they did it. I knew him because they didn't know that the people in finance told us he was on the payroll. But we'd been in government and we had connections. That's why we knew all of this. So I had him every day distributing flyers on the street. He had a special task. All sorts of things they tried. Everything. And we were disrupting them. So the no confidence motion came. And again, people were happy and then sad. And I said to them, with the night when Nagamootoo said they will respect the Constitution and go to elections within 3 months, I said to them, don't believe it. Because we have to struggle for this. And it happened. We ended up 1 year in office after, even after we got the CCJ to rule that the no confidence motion was valid. And I want to acknowledge the professionalism of the Speaker of the National Assembly at that time, Mr. Bartland Scotland. Because they tried to get him to reverse it. And he said no. And everything under the sun they tried. Even when the CCJ reversed it, we then thought, everybody thought elections would be soon. And they refused to call the elections, refused to comply with the Caribbean Court of Justice order. And we took to the streets. We protested. Bullhorn man down here, I see him there. Right, you know, Asif and all of the boys, every day in the street. And we got international support. By that time, we were working with the international community to reverse a lot of the lies they were telling about us. That they served them well in the period before 2015. But then the international community had seen the true nature of the PNC and AFC. And they understood that what their promises were, and their promise to have clean elections. They became the most corrupt group in office ever in our history. Ever in our history. And if I had time here today, I can demonstrate that to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. And so we managed to get all of that, and then we prevailed at the elections. We got to there, and then another set of issues that we had to deal with, from stealing of false declaration to attempt to disenfranchise unilaterally using court decisions 175,000 of our supporters. We had to fight the night before for polling stations. Their battle was enormous. And then even the recount. So we were at the recount, and I went there. I think Anil was with me, and just in that building there. And the CARICOM leaders, several CARICOM leaders came the night. And Granger was there, I was there, and he had Harman, I think, and Trotman with him. And they didn't want to go to the recount. So he started saying, oh, it's not just Region 4. So we pointed out the huge differences. And he said, oh, they have issues in Region 6 and Region 3 because the RO is a man named Jagdeo. So I said, really? Since the president has concerns there, we will agree to a total recount. And a lot of people were critical of us. They said, why do you agree to a total recount when the problem was in Region 4? But we were never going to have that. He got caught with it by saying there is an issue there. And I said, well, let's allay his fears too. And that's when they agreed with that, they then emerged. And 2 days later, he refused to sign the document. It was as long before the court challenges. And we almost forced their hands to sign it. And then Then they tried to block it in court, etc. And throughout the recount, we had to be very, very careful. They used COVID to try in the same building here, COVID to try to block us. Robeson Ben was lying down on that same thing. If you know if you know that step there, Robeson Ben was lying there with his phone in his hand like that. The image is very, very vivid in my mind. So there are lots of things throughout it all. And our party came through. If we did not succeed, this country would have been a dictatorship, full-fledged dictatorship. They were heading in that direction. We'll never got back into power. Because if they could have done it in 2020, then they would have consolidated. And we had one shot at this. Our people came out, they were quiet, they listened, they remained calm, but they were angry. They were angry. We had to stay calm throughout the period, but we were not going to give up. And what happened is that a lot of them came out when it mattered. And on the streets, they were shot, killed. After the elections, we were in the office of the president. And a guy called me and said, in Region 5, do you know in the Bushlat area people were shot there too? So I said, no, I thought it's Cotton Tree, backed by the police. And he said, I'm bringing to you a number of people, almost 30 persons, who still have pellets in their bodies. One had 70-odd pellets in the body. We sent them to try to remove some of the pellets. Until now, they can't remove all of those because they were standing up for a right, not just a right for themselves, but for you and for all the children and everyone in this country. They stood up. And those people must be recognized. It's not just the politicians, ordinary people throughout this country. APNU supporters, they try to provoke them every time to come out. And all I see is some old, maybe 10 of them coming out from the rigging generation in the past. APNU supporters too knew instinctively. They were provoked all the time. Granger tried getting sworn in 3 times and had to cancel the swearing in because he thought he would get support from people. And the Afro-Guyanese in our country too stood tall because they were under assault all the time to come out and all sorts of provocation. And people stood up for democracy right across our country. And that's why I say to people, those people who say to me, oh, Guyana has ethnic tensions, I said to them, you go to some countries that are ethnically homogeneous, and they have more tensions than we have in a multi-ethnic society. And we should be proud of this. We should be extremely proud of this. So I don't see this as a basket case, and that's why people can listen to reason. That's why this party is growing. So now we're in government. So that period is done with the report. We come into government now. So what happened? We're stuck with COVID, as the president said. And the first 2 years, what did we find? They locked down the country, passed a draconian law. They were building corruptly this hospital here at Leylandale, but no oxygen, no bed, nothing in the hospital to tackle COVID. So the first 2 years, nearly, of our term in office, we spent on keeping our people safe and still reopening the economy because we were conscious that the thousands, nearly 35, 40,000 people who had lost their jobs because of bad policies before COVID, now that those ranks were added to by the people who lost their jobs because of COVID. So you had 70, 80,000 people not working. And we are conscious we had to put them back to work. The president was modest when he said 60,000 people are back at work. But if you add even the housing sector alone, what we're doing, you probably get about 70,000, 80,000 people, including many of the part-time workers that we spoke of this morning, direct. In 3 short years, 3.5, 4 years, we've put back a whole 70,000, 80,000 people back to work, earning income for their families. The sugar workers, many of them were rehired. In Berbice became practically dead. We now have 4,000 part-time workers and another 2,000 hired by Gaisuko. We put back a lot of people to work. And that's a major, major achievement, and we did it with COVID. We fulfill all of our manifesto promises. And you know, the currency of a political party is its trustworthiness. Can people trust you to do what you say you will do? Can they trust you to fulfill your promises? And so, we made promises historically, and we fulfilled them. We made promises in our manifesto. The president took you through some of those. The children grant, we gone back, we put it back. Next year, it will be 50,000 per child. Next year, we'll end up doubling old age pension. Next year, but not, in fact, next year will be free university education. We have already done 30,000 of the 50,000 households promised to people. I can go down, he spoke about the joint services. We've removed all 200 taxes to the sectors, to agriculture and the mining and the other industries in Guyana. We've seen a resurgence of non-oil growth because of this policy. And we passed a budget. They told us when we got into office, the staff, it takes 4 to 6 months to prepare a budget. We tabled a budget in 4 weeks in the National Assembly after we got into office, in the middle of COVID. And we could have only done that because we're a party with experience. We're a party with a track record. We're a party grounded by economic philosophy apart from a political philosophy. And that found expression in the National Development Strategy, a 6-volume document running into thousands of pages that we developed in the 90s under the leadership of Chedi Jagan. And then it evolved through a poverty reduction strategy and then a competitiveness strategy. And now we have a world-class low-carbon development strategy, which most countries in the world are aspiring to. So we've had experience at policy making. We have a clear economic vision. And that's why it's easy to situate our current day plans in this vision. It's easy for us. Unlike them, I've seen some recent attempts, feeble attempts, silly attempts, inane attempts basically, to claim falsely that APNU had a plan in the past. Let me tell you what they did. They just adopted the standard structural adjustment policies of the IMF. When we got into office, we had a full-fledged IMF program. And an IMF only comes into the country when you're bankrupt. And we had been declared by the 90s uncreditworthy to borrow, bankrupt basically. We worked our way. By 2006, we worked our way out of the IMF program because of this narrow, sustainable focus on development. That is why, as we move forward, our buzzwords are sustainability. We don't wander in the wind. Every day you see every political party arguing, oh, when they get into office, they'll give you a car. Norton will double pay your rent. He will do some silliness. Nonsense. Every policy making of the PPP is grounded on what's good for today, but also what is sustainable tomorrow and in the future. That's the only way you accumulate wealth in a country and remain relevant and ensure that the prosperity we work for could really be sustainable. And that is why there's a big difference in our policy making. And they're so feeble. Every week, they come with a new idea. We have laid out our plans. And so what are the plans that we laid out? We said in the oil and gas sector, as I mentioned before, we're going to put in place a robust regulatory and management environment. We passed a new law, the Petroleum Activities Bill, replacing the Act of 1986 to manage the sector. We passed a new PSA that increased the royalty rate from 2% to 10%, zero tax to 10% corporate tax. Now, they say we don't renegotiate, but they signed a contract. APNU didn't find oil. They like to claim credit for it. Oil was found in 2015 before APNU. But they messed it up, signed an agreement that they hid, tried to steal the first $18 million. In the reform of the NRF that we passed, if a minister of finance doesn't release or publish in 3 months any receipt from an oil and gas company, the minister of finance can go to jail for 10 years now. That's the law we passed. Not that Ashley Singh has any worry. But that's it. You know why we passed it? Because when Norton was asked about the 18 million US they collected, he said, we never requested nor collected it. Lie, a total lie. They collected it, hid it outside of the consolidated fund or any account mandated by our financial laws or constitution. That's the first thing. Then next thing, he said, when pressed for it, he said, we thought it was a gift of 18 million US to them. So that will never happen again. We passed a local content law that now ensures thousands of Guyanese, 6,000 Guyanese are working in the oil and gas sector. $700 million US are going to 1,500 Guyanese companies, integrating, bringing more benefits from the same contract to our people. We made sure that we got the free gas from Exxon to make sure that the power plant we're building that would end all power woes in this country next year, that would lower the price of electricity by 50% and lower cooking gas prices, that benefit is coming to us because we're getting the free gas, and it's a significant benefit. We are managing this carefully, and we have made a commitment that all of the resources we collect, and we haven't collected a lot of oil money. This is something else you hear from them. Oh, they got oil money, they could spend it. Well, the fact of the matter is that if we use every cent of oil money, it will not finance 30% of our national budget this year. Every cent. And so we have to sort out this propaganda. Some of our own people, they repeat this thing, and they don't see that we have to invest consistent with our manifesto. Where did we say we'll invest? So we will invest in a world-class education system. We're building out now a large number of schools. Last year, we moved from $54 billion, the education sector budget, in 2020 to $153 billion, or thereabout, 162%. Just imagine that in 4 years. This is the allocation that we've had. We're investing, we trained 2,000 teachers. We're building new schools. Let me give you just an example to be illustrative of it. In Quebana, Hosororo, and the Northwest Secondary School, we're spending close to $5 billion Guyana dollars on the 3 schools alone in Region 1. And this is happening all over the country. We have 27,000 scholarships on the goal. Another maybe 6,000 on the grow. We have with WIN and BIT, the one ministry that Wendy heads, and BIT, Joe Hamilton, Combined, it's about 50,000 persons in Guyana in 4 years who have benefited from training. We're investing back in our people because we believe if they're educated, they have a second degree, a first degree, or they can get a skill, then that would cause them to grow out of poverty. So some people would get a scholarship and they say, me ain't get nothing from this government yet. You know, they get a house lot, they ain't get nothing yet. Sometimes we feed on this thing ourselves. I mentioned housing already. Let's look at another promise in our manifesto, world-class health care. So, consistent with that, we crafted a plan to build 12 new hospitals in the 3.5 years, and actually, most of them have started in every region of this country. We're also going to rehabilitate several others. World-class facilities. We're training more doctors and nurses. We're going to, if necessary, import them so that our people, wherever they live in this country, whether in the hinterland or on the coast, in the farthest corners of our country, have access to world-class health care. That's how we're investing these resources. We can give cash grants too, but not to undermine work ethic. We prefer to fund more job opportunities. We prefer to help our children and pensioners. But for them, they want to give out every cash grant. They want to give out money we never collect as yet, and will never collect when you hear the numbers. So I'm saying this all to you about in these years, from 2020 to now, we've remained true to our manifesto in very difficult circumstances, floods, APNU. And there's one thing I missed when you talk about the achievements of the 1992 to 2015 era. Disruption. In the period from 97 to about 2002, street protests every day. Burning buildings, consorting with criminals and supporting them, even those committing what I call genocide among some people here. You recall that? That was the APNU posture in opposition, to pull down everything, to destroy everything, to undermine welfare. In the period under Ramatar, it was the same thing. In the 3 years, they tried to block everything, even at the expense of welfare. We said this money is going to our children, to the hinterland. They cut the budget, $90 billion cut from the budget that were going to welfare. So they've been throughout. Their posture is anti-national. In government, in opposition, our posture was, if there is anything, the government proposes anything that will bring greater welfare to the people, we will support it. But we'll fight you on the things that take away welfare or create problems to people. So these are just some of the things I think I'm going on too long already. How far have I gone? Much time? You want me to bat? Yeah, I could bat the whole night, you know. So I didn't want, and I see, so this was a period. We had to do this, and we did it together. In that period, we fought them off, we came back into power, etc. So what are the things we need to look at ahead of us? Let's start talking about a few of the other things. So before I get to that, let me talk about our position internationally. You know that. And that's part of the report, a big section of the report. So this party has always been governed by a value system because of its own struggles to side with people whose rights are taken away, locally or internationally, or who are fighting for peace and avoidance of conflict and justice. And through our entire foreign policy supports this. Guyana is now holding a permanent seat, well, not a permanent, I wish we had, a seat on the UN Security Council. And our entire focus has been, if you look at the areas we chose, we said conflict resolution, peace, ensuring that conflicts don't impact disproportionately on women, children, and young people. And that's what our presence at the UN Security Council is fighting for, justice. Cherry Jagan outlined this in the new global human order. We remain faithful to that. We remain faithful to that in leadership issues on climate change, on food security, on energy security. These are important issues. I don't want to spend all the time on it because we can talk more about the workshop. Because even on climate or food security, I can spend a long time talking about these, but we don't have the time. On a reform of multilateral institutions, we have always argued that a multilateral system which we support is made up of multilateral institutions that are dated. They were developed in a different era, and it cannot respond adequately to the challenges of the modern era, and therefore they need reform. As such, we have proposed that reform at the IMF, World Bank, WTO, and at the UN itself to be more reflective of the concerns of the developing world. We believe the framework in which they operate will always keep developing countries at the periphery of decision-making and also progress. And that's why we're fighting globally to ensure that there is a reform there. On Venezuela, APNU tries to say they're more patriots than we are. We love this country. We love it to death as PPP members. And our whole history has been in defense of every bit of it. You trace from Cherry Jagan early days, he was even opposed to the signing of the Geneva Agreement, to our whole history. Even in a period when APNU was in office and practicing these excesses, we gave critical support on border-related matters because we said the sovereignty, the territorial integrity of our country and its preservation stand above politics. This is our home. This is our homeland. We can have differences politically, but there we must have a united focus. And that is why we have supported throughout the opposition their fight to maintain our borders, and now we have outlined a course of action that we believe would resolve this issue, and it has to be entirely within the jurisdiction of the ICJ. We support President Ali in defending this country at all costs, any cost whatsoever. President Ali, you know that. Any country, anyone, whatever, to forge alliances, to pursue any policy, whatever it takes, diplomatic or any other, to safeguard our country. He has our full support on this matter. That as a political party. I want to come to the task before us. If you go to your document, you would see that. And this is how we go now into the future. So I'm not going to... How long I'm talking? How long I'm talking? How long? Huh? No, how long am I speaking for? Huh? Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Yeah, in all the press conferences, I go for 2 hours, but that's air conditioned, and I like to cuss some of these people out too, because they come with nonsense all the time. Every day is Kite News, every day, etc. Here is friendly force. This is our home. These are our friends. So it's different. I don't want to make them sweat too much. So yes, we need to go forward. So we leave here with a few things. And look at what it says. Establishment or strengthen the democratic fabric of our society. So our job as we leave here, as party members, as leaders of this party, who are vested with a responsibility. On your shoulders rest the fortunes of this party. Often people mistakenly believe that the party gains membership. Yeah. So you just cut my train of thought there. Yes, this is an very disruptive here. So what was I saying? What was I talking about? Oh, the value of the membership. So yes, coming back to this, when I'm flowing. So the value of the membership. So there's this mistaken belief that the fortunes of this party, its growth, its development, will be determined by what we do in the leadership. And often it's not the reality on the ground. The party will grow. It will grow organically. It will grow among young people. It will grow among women. It will grow among people of different races based on your actions, what you say and what you do, and your ability to act in a certain manner when you interact with people. So you have a great responsibility to this party and to our future. And here are some of the things we have to do. When party members hold bodies of responsibility at the local government level or any level, we expect them to be accountable, not corrupt. We expect them to be accountable, because this party will get the entire party will be tainted. The entire party will be tainted. Secondly, we believe that when you hold positions, you have to have a particular attitude, accommodating to people, ensuring that you're not arrogant in your interaction with them, because they look at you, they judge the party. If you have a kind word for someone or you help them out, then they say, this party man is good. And then ultimately, the PPP benefits. Secondly, this incessant thing about who comes into the party. There is no fight between young and old and new entrants and people who are there. We're stronger for being together. The party needs more infusion all the time, and we're proud. Infusion of young people. They're not coming to displace you if you're older, comrade. They're coming to strengthen the body. And people of different races and religion and everything must be welcome, and different classes into this party. And you have to present that welcoming face. You have to do that. And this is, secondly, we have to strengthen the party groups. So too often, party groups meet and they're very active around Congress. But people don't attend meetings, they don't do educational, they don't want to do party work throughout the course of the years. If we want to grow and let everyone look up to this party. When a party person walks through a village or a ward in a town, then people must say, I want to be like them. That is what we want. Because they're clear where they're going, they care for people, they want to work in favor of our country. So people who come to us now, particularly, let me say something to you. In our party, we promote development of all of our people, right across Guyana. And we want our party members to grow too. We want them to get scholarships and jobs, and we want them to get house lots and everything else. as part of being Guyanese. We are unashamed of saying that. Unashamed of saying that. We want people to grow. We're not APNU, which tries to keep people down for political purpose. We expect you to grow, get wealthier at your level, whether it's a house or a car or whether a house lot or a job. That's wealth creation at your household level. We want that to happen. But you're not coming to this party only to get wealthy. You're coming because this party is about serving other people too. Serving our country. Serving your communities. That is what you come when you come to this party. You have to come with high personal ambitions, but also a social consciousness that you will work for the rest of the country. I expect that. We need to bring more women in leadership positions. So, when you go to rallies, you see almost 60-70% of women, but it's not reflected in many of our structures, and we need to encourage that, ensure. They bring a kind of commitment to party work and to development that's unmatched. And the care, I guess, because they bring that strategic kind of feeling of motherhood and caring and concern. And we must do this. Young people, we're clear on this. Our party has done well, but we need to strengthen not just the PYO and WPO, because those are party organizations and we do need to strengthen them. Out of this Congress, we people go back into their communities and we will focus now on strengthening these two bodies. But we need to build a women's movement. We need a youth movement in this country. And it goes beyond just strengthening PYO and WPO. We expect you to, as I said before, engage in political work. Important organizational strengthening, broaden the support base of the party. One that I spoke about, if you go to the corner street and you hear, oh, I read, a man would say, I read the Kite Show news, and somebody owned the Bharrat Jagdeo owned the Bharrat, or you got to go back and say, is this so? Go and read it up. And then next day, go back to the corner street and say, it's a lie. That's not true. Don't, because of lack of information, and you have means of getting this now, you can then fight things off. I expect strong, robust activists. Some people even afraid to post their name or post a positive comment about us on social media. I can understand if you have a job, etc. But afraid because some crazy person will cuss them out. Well, you don't cuss them out back. You just, well, you can do that, but not in the vile language. That's what I mean. But with facts, etc. We got to be strong. If we can't fight on social media, how are we going to fight APNU aggression in the streets and everywhere else? That's what we need to develop the courage to do this as party members. I expect you to do that. These are some of the things. As I said before, I wanted to talk to you only about the highlights. I didn't want my presentation to go as long as reading the report. So you have the report. I've highlighted certain aspects about our history, our achievements, our struggles, the vision, our capabilities to plan and deliver prosperity. I've outlined our core business and the things that make us tick. I've pointed out to you what you have to do to grow this party. And therefore, all I can ask of you now is that we go back. Let this Congress infuse in every one of us a new commitment to the party, its ideals, and to the people of this country. This is what I ask of you as delegates. Whether we live in Deep South or up in the mountains in Region 8 or in the far corners of Region 1 or here along the coast in 6 or 4 or 2 or 3, wherever we live, all of our people, the same camaraderie, the unity, when we are a family here. And that is what we should all be justifiably proud that we are here today. Look at the numbers. Look at the imagery here. No other party can come close to replicating this in this land. And you should take pride because this is your party and this is your country. Thank you very much. Oh, I need to speak a bit more. Irfan, what are the other things? Okay, yes, so I wanted to say a bit more about our civic members too. I forgot about that. Prime Minister Phillips, please stand up for me. I've seen him in action in that GCOM building too. So, Prime Minister Phillips and the civic members of our cabinet and party, you are an essential part of our family too. You may not have a party card, but we love you and you're part of the struggle and we appreciate every bit of it. And we are so pleased that you joined us in the PPP and you agreed to this. You bring integrity to our struggle and you bring a great sense of energy and purpose. And we're grateful for it. And all the other civic members of the party and the cabinet, I can't name all of them, but the cabinet members can stand maybe here who are civic. Susan, you're not civic, you're a party member. Right, yes. There are a couple of others, so they're just like family to us. Amen. There's no difference at all. What else I forgot. That's it? So, oh, you want me to say something else? Oh, yes. We have a special session, actually, to deal with the fallen comrades. This afternoon, there are lots of people who made enormous contribution to the struggle at every level in our party. If we didn't get everyone's name on that long list, then please let me apologize because we can keep adding to the list, comrades. But no, not that I want the list to grow bigger, but at every level, community level, right up to the leadership. We had some of our comrades who passed away. Some managed to see us get back into government, and others did not. And I know the fears after the 2015 elections. For the whole night, people kept coming in large numbers to my home. They were crying. And they said, we'll never get back in office. Never get back. Because these were older comrades. They said the PNC would never allow us to get back into office. They were rigged. And they knew instinctively that the PNC will try to rig. And we had, as Irfan Ali said, to take that and instill back in our people the confidence that we will win. And we did it. We did it. That was an essential part of doing it. We did it by pointing out what they did and then instilling confidence in our people. Some other time we'll tell the whole story. Some of it we can't speak about publicly, but it's an interesting story. So thank you very much, comrades. Thank you for listening to me. Oh, these men say diaspora. Now I acknowledge the diaspora, the last place, man. Thank you for the comrades from the diaspora who are here. We welcome you.
Comrades, let's give our General Secretary another round of applause.